Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. He jumped up, ran around, jumped down, and he's gone. So anyway, today I am going to read from 3 meditation books. Did you guys see all that with Tucker? They're so sweet. But I have to tell you what is so funny. I'm getting ready to do a dog box unboxing on my review channel, and they know it's in the kitchen, and so every time I go over there, they're sitting right there wondering what it's gonna be. But typically when I'm filming my videos, my Peterisms video is the only one that they are super attention seeking from. Here, I will show you Tucker right now. Look at him. What are you doing, buddy? Is he not so funny? I mean, they don't do it with any other videos that I film. So they're getting excited because they're going to get a special little surprise today when I do the review. But anyway, I'm going to read today from 3 different books that I haven't read from in a while. And the first one is A Time to Be Free, Daily Meditations for Enhancing Self-Esteem. Are you guys ready? Okay. And I have not read these meditations today. Let me get a sip of coffee. Exhale. Now we're ready. February 3rd. More often than not these days, we do things for the right reasons, out of self-love or out of self-respect and love. But that wasn't always the case. For many years, we were motivated by fear. I was just having this conversation with my sponsor today. This is so strange. Fear was our primary source of energy and action. Because of our low self-esteem, we lived defensively. Many of our most important choices were made to avoid feelings of anxiety, guilt, and self-doubt, rather than to experience enjoyment and fulfillment. Come here, Tucker. Come up here. Come here, guys. Okay. They are wanting to be rambunctious. Okay. Many of our most important choices were made to avoid feelings of anxiety, guilt, and self-doubt, rather than to experience enjoyment and fulfillment. We sought relationships, for example, not because of a true desire to give and receive love, but because we were afraid of being alone. We worked feverishly at our jobs, not for personal satisfaction or career advancement, but to avoid the fear of financial insecurity. We took care of our responsibilities, not out of pride, but because we feared the consequences of not taking care of them. When low self-esteem compels us to act out of fear, we of course end up feeling even worse about ourselves. On the other hand, when our motives are good and right, we gain self-respect, self-confidence, and real satisfaction. Thought for today. My choices and actions today will be motivated by a desire to enjoy life rather than by a need to avoid the anxiety of living. I think that is such a fantastic meditation. You guys cannot see this, but Boo Radley is literally right down here needing my every bit of attention. You know, for many, many years, I lived completely out of anxiety and fear, even when I was sober. You know, even many years into my sobriety, and I've talked about this many times on my channels. You know, there were several years where I wasn't attending 12-step meetings. I had no emotional sobriety. That was the worst of it, you know. I think at times when I was going through that, it was almost worse than when I was drinking, because I was aware of what was going on and I wasn't putting any action to it. I wasn't improving myself, my self-concept. I don't love the word self-esteem. I think I prefer the word self-concept, but my self-concept of who I thought I was as a person was just so down. I just was constantly, you know, like beating myself up. I was my own worst enemy. You know, I think many of us have been there. I think we have to ask ourselves every day why we are doing something. You know, to go to a job because you have to pay the bills, because you have to have a place to live, that is not living out of fear, okay? That's not living out of anxiety, right? But when we stay away from doing things, like for me, my social anxiety, I've talked a lot about that on this channel. You know, my social anxiety has kept me from doing things. The fear of what other people might think of me, or being uncomfortable in a situation, or feeling overweight and not feeling comfortable there, and everybody else, you know, looking good and I don't look good. And, you know, all this talk in my head, this negative talk that I've done for years and years and years that I today do not allow in my head. I just don't, you know. When it comes in, I try to put it right on out, you know. And I'm a big believer, and The Secret just talked about this, you know, and when you have a negative thought come in, replacing it with a positive thought. And I really, really try that. That's not to say that fear doesn't creep in, you know, and that's what I was talking to my sponsors about today. You know, we were talking about like alcoholics and addicts. We live from, you know, like we are fear-based internally, you know, like I think many of us were born fear-based, you know. So it's about working away from that. It doesn't mean you're not going to have fear. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have, you know, and I'm not talking about clinical anxiety. This is completely something different. I'm talking about feeling anxious about certain situations, okay? It's not to say that you're not going to have fear, that you're not going to be anxious. It's saying that when we do, we have tools in our toolbox today. We have people that we can talk to, we can journal, we can write down those feelings, we can get them up. I had a friend of mine years ago. She did like the morning papers. I can't remember what that book is. Do you guys remember what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Shoot, why can't I remember what it's called? It's just, A Course in Miracles. I think it's A Course in Miracles, but it might not be. It might be something else, but it's the Julia Cameron one, I believe. But anyway, there was this thing that you did every morning, and it was called the morning papers, or the morning pages, and you would just stream of conscious write, like what was going on in your head, like all your fears, everything that was causing you anxiety, everything that was driving you nuts in your life. You would write it down. Do you see this? He is so sweet. But then what she would do is she would rip it up and she would throw it away, or she would burn it at the end of the day. Like, she would get rid of it, right? It was just the point of getting it out for her, you know? So I think, you know, in going and talking to a counselor or a life coach, or having a good friend or a sponsor, you know, if you're in sobriety, or journaling or exercising, I think is a great way to do that too. Not that I do a whole lot of that, but I do think it is a great way, you know, to get rid of some of those feelings that we have and to kind of work through them in our heads. You know, typically when something happens to me, or I am like, have this feeling of fear or whatever's going on, it kind of like takes a while to process through me, and then I get to the other side and I'm like, okay, I feel a little bit better now, you know? But I kind of have to use some of those tools and skills first. I do, you know? So anyway, let me know what you think about that meditation, and we're gonna move on to the next one. You ready? Excuse me, Tucker? Okay. Are you just gonna stand there? Are you just gonna stand? What? They don't get that I'm on a video right now, okay? Now Boo Radley's going behind me, and you know what that means. That means that do you think that you guys could just maybe let me film a video for this? Oh, okay, thank you. They're like, no, we don't want to let you film this video. Okay, so let's see. This one is from Daily Affirmations for Forgiving and Moving On, Powerful Inspiration for Personal Change. And I really, really like this book. Boo Radley? Did you get it back there? Okay. My own response, February 3rd. My own response, February 3rd. Today I recognize that there is little to be gained by letting other people's actions dictate my reactions. Yes, very much so, I feel that way. If I feel I have to respond in kind, I know that I will be hurting myself and wasting my time. When I feel someone is attacking me, I would do well to consider the source before I react. If I'm willing to forego revenge, I may be able to see a cowardly or provocative act toward me for what it really is. Do I really need to convince the other person of what I see? Or might it not be enough just to escape the situation with my own peace of mind intact? I love this so much. This is what I have worked on so hard in the last year. I am in charge of my own response. Don't let them push your buttons. The one trying to get you angry wants to control you. If you meet a negative approach positively, you are not letting the climate get out of your hands. Gerard Nierenberg. What an amazing meditation, and I really, really needed to hear that. You know, and that's not a situation that I face on a daily basis anymore. I just really don't. I don't have people in my life that I allow to push my buttons. I just don't. I have limited space in my life, limited time. I talked about this yesterday, you know, that we only have so many hours, so many minutes in the day. So I choose very carefully how I spend that, or where I give that, you know. But at the same time, I also have limited space in my life. I don't allow people in my life anymore that are extremely negative or chaotic or toxic. I don't just get rid of them and don't talk to them anymore. They kind of, it's interesting in my life, they kind of find their way out, so to speak, you know, in whatever way that happens. I would have to say today, February 3rd of 2020, I can't think of really anybody that's chaotic or negative in my life. I really can't, you know, that I encounter on a daily basis. So I feel pretty blessed. But the takeaway, the number one most valuable lesson that I have learned in the last year is that I have the ability to pause and to respond and not react. You know, when I want to go right into reacting instead of responding, I'm not thinking through what I want to say. You know, I've talked about this a lot on here, that it's like, you know, when somebody hits you, it's like you want to hit them back. That's reacting. Instead of stopping and going, ouch, that's the pause, and then coming back to them the next day and saying, you know, I thought about what happened last night. I'm not really sure why you felt the need to hit me, but this is how I feel about it in response. You know, to really think it through and respond. And you know, sometimes you can hit that pause button, and this happens to me all the time, and I realize this isn't something I'm giving my time to. This isn't something I'm engaging in. This isn't something that I'm going to continue down the road with. It just isn't worth it to me. You know, like I just need to leave it be where it is, and it's good right there. You know, I don't need to respond. I don't need to react. I don't need to give any energy to this. It just is. And it's like when you're, you know, you walking down the road of life and you see something you don't necessarily like, it doesn't always affect you personally. You know, I got to stay away from wanting to insert myself into things that have nothing to do with me. I can be really good at that. I can be really good to put myself into things that have nothing to do with me. And then I can tell you down the road, I'm like, damn, that bit me in the ass. Like I should, excuse my language, but like I really should have stayed out of it. It had nothing to do with me, you know? I think I've learned that today. I try to at least. You know, and I think the other thing is that even things that do have to do with me personally, I don't, you know, always have to respond to that. You know, what somebody else says about me, it says very little about me. What somebody else, their feelings or their how they want to respond to me, that doesn't really say anything about me. It says everything about them, you know? When I feel like I need to get into that, I mean, you know, there's just no reason for it, you know? I know who I am, and that's all that I need to know, you know? And the people that I choose to surround me in my personal life, you know, they're supportive of me, they know who they are, who I am, and they love me, and they support me. And, you know, I don't feel like I need to always engage in things that have really nothing to do with me. I sometimes think about this, you know, like, with like huge celebrities, like, and I'm not talking about like, okay, Meryl Streep is a huge celebrity, but I'm talking more on like a, you know, like a pop culture kind of, you know, like the Kardashians. Like they get talked about all the time, you know, and probably 99% of the things, 99.9% of the things that are said about them, there's no bearing in truth whatsoever. And I kind of wonder, like, how do they deal with it sometimes? Well, have you noticed? It's right in front of our face how they deal with it. They don't. They give no power to it whatsoever. I think there's a lot to be said about that and how we can live our own lives as well, you know? And then you go across the street to the reality TV of the Housewives, of which, you know, I watch when my husband's got it on. I used to watch all of them, you know, but I don't as much anymore. It's a lot for me. But they're always fighting about what somebody wrote in the blogs, and somebody said this and somebody said that, and they're so consumed with what other people thought about them, you know? And it's like, I watch that, and you can see here's another example of how they handle it. They don't handle it very well, do they? And you transfer that, you know, to our real personal lives, and you ask ourselves, well, then how can I handle these things in my personal life? Which way is better for me? Maybe not giving it any power. Maybe that's the best way to handle situations sometimes. Anyway, I think I'm just going to read from those two books and go and enjoy my evening. So we're going to do our review, aren't we, guys? Anyway, let me know what you think about those two meditations. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.